Hey everyone, reviewing the website BestDefenseFoundation.org. Today, just doing a simple SEO and UX audit. So let's jump right in. Okay, so the authority is pretty good overall. The site has been around, looks like, since 2019. Traffic has really started to increase starting in 2024, which is good. But let's look at the last year or so. Overall, I guess since 2024, traffic has started to increase, but over the course, especially like in 2025, it looks like organic traffic is going down slightly. If we go back 2 years, yeah, so it increased, and then there looks to be a consistent slide downward. So we want to address kind of what's going on there. Looks like there's a significant loss of keywords starting in 2024 going into 2025. It looks like lost about 40% of your keywords. Actually, starting today, if we're looking at just today, it looks like we've lost over 50% of keywords since the end of 2024. A lot of times, when I see something like this, a lot of times I think chances are there was probably a big site change, maybe a redesign. We see this all the time in this area when content is taken off the site or a big redesign happens, wording changes, things like that. There's a lot of keywords that end up getting lost if we just aren't careful about making sure that we're still ranking for the same keywords. Sometimes these things can be strategic. A lot of times they can end up hurting sites, which is probably what I'm seeing here, and also considering the consistent slide of traffic overall, this is probably something that needs to be addressed urgently. When we are looking at overall keywords right now, ranking for over 2,000 keywords, only 67 of them are in the top 3 positions. Most people are only clicking on the top 1 positions. Now we do see some SERP features here, 195. These are really good. The SERP features are, people also ask, the AI overview, things like that. So, there could be a decent amount of keywords that are still showing up in those top positions, even if they aren't in the main search results. Looking at the overall website and just kind of general, high level issues, there's invalid HTML elements in the head. This is really concerning. This is, how your site is functioning. This is how Google is reading your site. If Google can't, Google isn't just looking at the image of your site, it's looking at the code. If Google can't read that code, or there's issues with that code, this can really affect your ability to rank, and Google will start to drive traffic away from your website. Going down the list here, H1's missing. H1s, these are heading tags. These are basically on every single page, how Google is deciphering what the main page content is about. So, optimizing these, making sure that these are on every page is super important. Again, page titles, meta descriptions. This is how Google is reading the content on your site. This is also, how users are first being introduced to your content through Google search. So if that content is too long or too short in some instances, so there's not a lot of information, they aren't necessarily going to click on it, because some of that content you won't see the full content, especially on things like mobile. A lot of duplicate H2s, which are just kind of like, headings go H1, H2, H3, H4. It's basically the heading 1 is what the main page content about. Heading 2 is a subtopic. Heading 3 is a subtopic within that subtopic, and so on. So these are really important that these are labeled correctly and that they're going through the site correctly. Missing a lot of alt text on your images. The reason why this is important is this is another way that Google tells what your site is about. The other thing here is that alt text is part of ADA. So the Americans with Disability Act, this is a legal requirement that websites have to follow. When things like alt text are missing, among other issues, these open you up for lawsuits. And so these are just things that you have to follow and are super important. When going through the website, when we first get introduced to the website, there is a pop-up. Might not have it. Okay, so there's a video pop-up that pops up here. Let me try it in a different browser so that we can see it. Okay, so video pops up here. I actually don't mind this. I like it. Plays a kind of a branded video of what, of what the site is about. It's really cool. I like it. It's a good introduction to the website. That being said, this is a nonprofit. I think one of the most important things for a nonprofit to do is to make sure that you're collecting emails. We want to make sure that users are getting into that funnel. And so having that video is great, but maybe, if you aren't going to have a pop-up that has an email, hey, sign up for our emails or marketing and everything like that, then that should also be kind of a primary priority. Right now it's just in the footer, and maybe adding it more up top could be beneficial for you if you want to introduce users to the website with that video pop-up. Because the video didn't pop up on the screen when I try to refresh the page, that's actually a really good thing. You're basically saying, hey, you've already been to the site. I'm not going to keep having that video pop up in front of you over and over again within a certain period of time. So I think that setup is pretty good. As we scroll down through the site, there's a lot of video elements, especially even in this hero images, and even in the hero image here. Just want to be careful with how many video elements we embed in the site. It looks like this is a YouTube embed, so that's really good. So, looks like I'm having trouble. Okay, so we were having trouble immediately just trying to pause that video. That might be, if a user doesn't want to go through the whole 5-minute video, we want that easily paused. That was a little wonky on that end, so might want to look into that. But overall, there's a lot of video elements. These elements could slow down the site and could hurt users, especially on things like mobile. Desktop, it's not too bad, but it is something that we want to be sure of and address. Donate page is looking good overall. I think giving a little more information and guiding the user a little more. Right now, all of this content, just users, all this content looks very similar. Obviously, it's not the same when you're reading it, but users are scanning your site. They're not reading it. If the main action that you want them to do isn't standing out, then the chances of them making that action go down significantly. So when I see donate online, typically this is the primary thing that you want to do. This needs to be apparent. It has the same weight as this information right here. Has the same weight as everything else on the page, and so making sure that this is popping up significantly is really good. Donation goes straight to a different page. That's fine. I see a lot of people do that. The only issue that I have with that is, ideally, if you can get that page to show up either in a pop-up modal or even embed this onto the site, that would be more ideal. And the only reason I say that is because when you take users away from this site to a completely different site, you're losing your ability to kind of track that event. I mean, sometimes you can, but it just makes it harder to track that event, especially when running things like advertising and everything like that. So and also in general, you want users on the site for as long as possible. That helps your site authority, that helps Google rank you. So making sure that they're staying on the site for as long as possible is really important. So if we can keep the donate page on the website, then that user, as they're going through that process, they're on the site and they aren't on a different domain. The blog content, when we're looking at the general blog page, I think what we could do is for this, I would always suggest, maybe making these images a little bit smaller so that we can see more blogs. Because right now, even on desktop, I don't even see everything that this content is about. It looks like the titles for these pages are pretty long, and that's okay. If we can shorten them, that's always better. As we're going through this content, it looks like there's a few URLs to outside pages. This one I just happened to click on now, but it immediately goes to a 404. The other thing, making sure any pages that are going to outside pages are opening up in a new tab, because then it makes it easier for the user to get back to your website instead of having to press back a bunch of times. When looking at the blog content, well, actually that blog went to a different website. That's really interesting. So that's not something I noticed either until just now. That's really interesting because it looks like it's staying on your site. So that actually could end up becoming an issue because it's hurting the user's expectation. They think that they're staying on your site and they're actually going to a completely different site. So we'll click on a blog right here that is staying on your site. Few things that we're seeing here is there are no links. Within all the blog content, we want to make sure that, we're linking, doing at least 3 external links and 3 internal links on every single blog. What this is doing, especially the internal linking, is so important because it's adding more crawl depth to your website. So it's giving Google and the other bots, for, like ChatGPT and things like that, as they're scanning your site, it's giving them more of an ability to reach more areas of your website. And this is super important because we want the site to be crawled as quickly as possible. A lot of times when sites aren't crawled super quickly, then not everything gets crawled. So when you create more content, when you are trying to draw more users in, it might take a while for that content to be crawled again and rank faster. So definitely we want, the internal linking is probably one of the, low-hanging fruit for optimizing this website. Other than that, that's, those are the main call outs for the website. Again, really addressing why these keywords dropped, why the traffic's dropping, because as a nonprofit, we need to make sure that as many users as possible are coming in to the website so they can get as many donations as possible. So making sure that we stop this slide as quickly as possible is going to be super important. And that is the audit.